This is the Making Noise podcast.
There's some funny moments where, like, while they're interviewing Michael Jordan, they hand him an iPad to be like, remember that time when, I don't know, Penny Hardaway, whatever his name was, like did this thing, and then he hands it to him and he's like, what? And, like you see his reaction in real time on the interview. Mm-hmm. But I bring that up because Michael Jordan is notoriously known for his trash talk. Mm-hmm. And sort of watching the documentary and stuff, I kind of wonder how much of that attitude contributes to the level of success. Not to say that in order to achieve that amount of success, you have to be a dick. Yeah. But I mean, there's something going on, whether it's arrogance or confidence. Mm-hmm. And because in sports, it's like obviously incredibly physical, but it's also very psychological too. Mm-hmm. And so even just like the demeanor you put off, the aura can be intimidating. Whether you're actually saying something to that person or not, like you're dead, like mm-hmm. I'm gonna score a point on you, like, or you're just like, I'm so ready,
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. That's an interesting thing to think about. And my instinctual reaction to this is to say that's probably amplified in sports a lot more than say in music, because there's an opponent. Mm-hmm. But I think that attitude is very valuable in music. To like have that very head down gung ho thing of not like I'm gonna crush you, or like I'm gonna win, but just like this very seriousness about like I've got to work. Like I always love when people who have no experience with music realize that it's hard. Mm-hmm. I love when people who have no experience with contemporary music realize it's hard, especially other musicians. But there's this, like, you don't need to be out to get anybody, but you have to have this seriousness about like, I got to work hard or else, it's not going to be high caliber. And that's fine. But like, I appreciate, like I don't want to say like hobby level music, but like I very much appreciate non-professional music, but like for people who are trying to be musicians and be professionals in music, like you gotta have that fire that keeps you going there. I just thought of a funny story though while I was saying that.
Please, love to hear it.
So working at Target has had one benefit to me as a musician, and it has been to explain what I do to people who are non-musicians. I've had to get really good at that, because people are like, okay, so people are like, oh, well, once you start performing concerts, maybe we'll come see you. And I'll be like, I would very much appreciate that, but I need you to know that it's not what you're thinking it's going to be. Mm-hmm. So when I'm just joking around, I'm like, so it's, I guess you could call it contemporary classical music or like experimental classical music, which means like classical instruments, but the music is weird and bad. And people are like, ha ha ha, that's so funny. Right. Or like when people are like serious about wanting to know what contemporary or experimental classical music or Western art music. And I'll say, so, think of the Mona Lisa and then think of a Jackson Pollock. And the Mona Lisa is very meticulously painted. The lines are excellent. It's very representative of the subject matter. That is, a Beethoven symphony, if you will. Think of a Jackson Pollock and how, it's completely non-representative of anything. There's no, there's there's certainly form to it, and there's intention to it, and idea to it. But if that was translated into sound, it would be something that's not as organized and aesthetically pleasant, if you will. So that's sort of the description I have for people who genuinely want to know what I mean when I say contemporary or experimental music. Like, because people are typically more familiar with painting. So I explained this to one of my coworkers, and she said, "Oh yeah, I remember I had to go to a UCSD concert for I had to go to a UCSD concert for extra credit one time, and the whole time I was thinking, oh God, I could do this." And I was like,
you have no idea.
Yeah. So I told this to one of my buddies at one of the UCSD percussionists, and he thought it was funny, and he's like, yeah, you could make that squeak, but could you make that squeak in the right place? And I'm like, that's good. That's
in the right way.
Yeah. Because I mean, at a certain point, like, a lot of what I do is flail at my instrument, but I flail at my instrument with purpose, and that's what keeps me flailing. Yeah,
I like the flailing. I mean, it makes me think of like any other profession. It's like you're a pilot. It's like, yeah, I just point this big metal object in a specific direction.
Yeah,
you know.
But it's got to be that direction to, like, no variation from the 100th of the degree, or else, whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of meticulousness to it, and the same thing in contemporary music.
Yeah, it's this is to say that, going back to what I was saying about people not realizing it's hard. I get, a lot of people who don't do contemporary music think the same thing. It's just like, you are, I'm playing with the perfect sound and the perfect intonation, and and you're over there squeak, 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 and I'm like, yeah, but like, you're playing with perfect sound and the perfect intonation and all this stuff to, oh, and I'll pause right here and say, yes, I also have to worry about intonation. Contemporary music also needs to be in tune, but
yeah,
I'm not good at it, but I am worried about it. But you're playing that way because that is the musical intention of the music that you're making. And I'm playing this way because this is the musical intention of the music I'm making. And musical intention is something that's very, very, very hard to learn how to do effectively. And like, it's not necessarily hard to, like, I mean, the technical parts of playing an instrument are also very hard to do, but I could give somebody a bass, and by the end of the day they'd be able to play an F that sounds nice, and they'd probably be, their hands would look like shit, and they would never be able to like play anything, but like, they could make a good sound on the instrument by the end of the day. Just like they could play a really loud sol ponticello ricochet that busts everybody's ears by the end of the day. But it'd take a lifetime to develop that into something that's communicative, and I think that's a lot of where the art lies, and a lot of where the hard work has to go.
I like the description you used. I'm gonna restart my camera again, by the way. I don't know what's going on with this thing.
It's all good.
I gotta figure that part out. I apologize for whoever watches this and has to suffer through the blurriness. My mom says the same thing about when she explains people the music that I write. She says, because my mom was an artist, she went to art school, and so she explains it like it's like abstract art. There's a level of unpredictability, and you have to sort of allow the art to allow the art to guide you, as opposed to having your preconceived notions as to what it will be. It's like You can say to someone, "Oh, check out this artist. He's a blues guy," and then you'll have these ideas. Okay, blues, I know what that is. But then if you say to someone, "Oh, listen to Rebecca Saunders. She's a classical composer," and they're like, "Oh, Rebecca Saunders, classical music, Beethoven," and then they hear her music,
Yeah.
and it's like, this is not Beethoven. And so that's such an important aspect, I think, is allowing the art to happen. Like you have to be open enough to what it is in order to uh, uh, even just understand, or whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of strains to pick up on from this, particularly the Rebecca Saunders strain. But this is why it pains me so much to compromise what I believe to tell non-musicians that I play classical music.
Mm-hmm.
And because when I have no problem telling people that my background is in classical music. From the time I was in 6th grade until probably about 3 years ago, I had my life set on the fact that I'm going to play Mahler symphonies. But now it hurts me so bad to say I'm a classical musician, or like I'm a classical bass player, because like, am I? Maybe it's from that tradition, but I don't feel that it describes what I do. And so I'll say things like experimental classical music or contemporary classical music, or contemporary Western art music, because it needs something to give someone a picture of what it is. But it just really hurts me to be like, I, for lack of a better word, am a classical musician.